Welcome back to Core Motivations Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Connolly. I'm a certified Enneagram coach and a Symbis marriage coach. Perhaps this is your first time joining us. I'm really happy you found us. For those returning, I hope you're as excited as I am that you have committed to growth through this podcast. How about a recap? But first, I wanted to celebrate that I followed through and I posted the affirmations on our Instagram page. Whew, I must be growing. So, if you're just tuning in, last week we talked about affirmations, among other things. And you know how I love my definitions. Here's another one. Affirmations. It is a statement or a sign that something is true. It's also the act of saying yes or of showing that you mean yes. Affirmation is support or approval. So then, wouldn't you say that affirmations are important because they help us change our beliefs? They help us change the gossiper, inner monologue, inner voice, or our inner committee that takes up residence rent free, even though we thought we evicted them, in our mind. So affirmations, they can replace the past messages. They can remind us of who we are today, not who we may have been yesteryear. Okay, that's an old word. You're welcome. Ultimately, affirmations are the opportunity to stand firm and embrace the new you. Kind of like an introduction. Michelle, I would like you to meet Michelle. She is like none other. And of course, the reintroduction to the people who thought that they knew you, but no, they didn't. This is the new you. And affirmations, speaking those into ourselves and about ourselves, can really shift. So last week, we started with these 6, and at the end of our time today, I will give you a few more to add to your toolbox. You don't have to use them all, but I encourage you, start with one. Say it every day, perhaps even several times a day if you can, because this will rewire your brain and engage the new settings just waiting to be used. So these are the ones that I presented last week. I love and accept myself exactly as I am. I'm strong, capable, and resilient. I'm enough just as I am. I trust my abilities to succeed. I am patient with myself as I grow and evolve. And last one. I am worthy of love, happiness, and fulfillment. I sure hope that that helps you establish a new baseline and that you can find solace in this new habit. Or maybe you're already using this technique. Either way, it's a great place to reset these affirmations. So, with that, our final group of Enneagram paths, lines, and arrows as it applies to types 7, 8, and 9. Well, you ready? Let's get into it. Starting with type 7 and their core motivations. Starting with core fear, being deprived, trapped in emotional pain, limited, or bored. Core desire is being happy, fully satisfied, and content. Their core weakness is something called gluttony, where they feel a great emptiness inside and having an insatiable desire to fill themselves up. Core longing, you will be taken care of. Now, just a quick reminder, we start with core motivations because it lets us, you and me, know where a person is starting from, who they are at their very core, from childbirth to the current age that you or anyone that is in this particular Enneagram type is. So, with that, what do their paths look like and where do their arrows lead? So, let's start with stress path. And it's when sevens move towards the unhealthy 1. What that looks like is you can impose restrictions and limitations on yourself to be more productive. You notice and point out imperfections, wanting yourself and others to live up to higher ideals. You get upset with and are critical of others who are preventing you from experiencing fun. So, what does your blind spot look like? And for a reminder, this is how you can be with your friends or family, those that you feel most comfortable with. 7, when they move towards this unhealthy 5, they can grow tired of always being positive and energetic. And they will conserve their energy by withdrawing and seeking seclusion to recharge. You might even experience this darker, cynical, and some pessimistic viewpoints. Okay, and the growth path. This is when you are putting into practice the changes of becoming more aware that things can be different and utilizing the strengths of your connector's type attributes. So, what that means is that it's a type 7 moving towards this healthy 5. So, they will allow their quick mind to rest, finding more clarity and insight. They place more value on wisdom and discipline by becoming more grounded and focused. And they focus on their inner world and learn to accept good and bad, happy and even sad. So then the converging path. This is the ultimate space to be in. When you're really allowing yourself to be fully aware, no longer grappling with the struggles, and finding that balance. Again, this is not all the time because nothing is perfect all the time. But again, awareness, 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 which it allows you to move in life in a healthy way. For a 7, when they're moving towards the healthy 1, they learn to accept life as it is and live for a higher purpose. They focus on top priorities and complete them with accuracy and on time without avoiding or procrastinating. And they take ownership of their responsibilities, even if they're not fun. So here's some questions for consideration as you, a 7, move from connector unhealthy type 1 and 5 to the healthy side of the 1 and 5. So here's some questions for you. When around those you are secure with, mainly your family, do you find that you choose to withdraw and seek seclusion? And if so, what does that look like? Do you find that you're wanting to conserve your energy rather than expending it around your family? Describe several experiences when you were able to accept all of life, the happy, sad, good, and bad. And when you're under stress, do you become a perfectionist and even critical? Describe a situation when this happened and explain how you reacted. What are some ways in which you blame others for preventing fun? What would it look like to access the high side of type 1 by becoming focused, grounded, and principled while still having fun, joyful, and adventurous? Have you ever had a season in life where you brought a higher purpose to your creativity and enthusiasm? And if so, describe what this was like. Okay, I know. Lots of questions, but these allow you to be introspective, to pause and really listen to what you're saying and how you're responding to these questions. And I believe it is oh so important to do that. This reflective space, right? Okay, let's look at type 8, starting with core motivations. Their core fear is being weak, powerless, harmed, controlled, vulnerable, manipulated, and left at the mercy of injustice. Their core desire is protecting themselves and those in their inner circle, where their core weakness is lust, as in it's a vice or excess, constantly desiring intensity of control and power, where they're pushing themselves willfully on life and people to get what they want. However, their core longing is that they will not be betrayed. With core motivations in hand, let's look at how that plays out from stress path to conversion with their connecting types, starting with stress path. So, when an 8 moves towards an unhealthy 5 and they are under stress, they will commonly withdraw. They become secretive and isolated and even observe from afar. They detach from emotions and gain more knowledge to be on the offense. They become more cerebral and less physically assertive and actions oriented. They distrust people and become cynical and harsh. These things make a lot more sense when you understand the core of each type. Hence why a coaching session or 5 would be good. So let's connect. I have some spots open and we can talk about what all this means and make some connections. When you understand the core of, for example, we're talking about 8, type 8s, and we understand the core motivations of a 5, you can see how it blends some specific things about each type and what's happening in that space. Okay, onward. Blind spot, type 8. This is how they are when in the comfort of family and friends and those relationships. So it's how an 8 moves towards an unhealthy type 2. So they seek reassurance that those close to you still need you. They become overly helpful by overstepping relational boundaries and inserting themselves into people's lives without asking. They desire appreciation for all that they do for others. I just want to add that I believe that on average, this describes the unhealthy attributes of a type 2. So, what does growth path look like? This is when you are putting into practice the changes of becoming more aware that things can be different while utilizing the strengths of your connector type attributes for the healthy you. So when an 8 moves towards the healthy side of 2, they put the needs of others before their own by plowing a path for others. They become more thoughtful, empathetic, compassionate, and caring towards others. They show more of their feelings, this tender-heartedness and vulnerable side. How about the converging path? This is the ultimate space to be in. It's when you are really allowing yourself to be fully aware, no longer grappling with the struggles and finding balance. Again, this is not all the time because truth is nothing is perfect all the time. But again, awareness, 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 which allows you to move in life in a healthy way. So an 8, when moving towards a healthy 5, they take a more humble and realistic view of their place in life. They pause before reacting to their gut instincts and they think through the best path forward. They gain more knowledge and insight into their inner world, and they're observing the gifts and talents of others, looking for ways to help them thrive. So, how about we look at some questions for consideration as you move from your unhealthy types 5 and 2, your connectors, to the healthy side of 5 and 2. So, when moving towards type 5, unhealthy, and moving towards healthy, you can see how these questions change. So, describe a time when you overextended yourself emotionally and physically or mentally, and you found you needed to remove yourself from others to find privacy to recharge. What do you need to do to recognize this pattern and become more proactive in your self care? Can you add a dimmer switch to your intensity level? Have you experienced a time when you learned humility and your true place in the larger scheme of things? Have you experienced a time when you were fully able to trust another person? How did this impact you and your life? Okay, so moving towards type 2, and again, these questions are showing the difference between unhealthy to healthy. So you'll start to notice the way the questions change. So when around those you're secure with, mainly your family, do you become more vulnerable, express your feelings and desires to receive appreciation for all that you do? What would it look like to access the high side or healthy side of type 2? How can you acknowledge the best in others? How can you increase your ability to have empathy and compassion? What would it look like to move toward others with tenderness and a giving spirit? How can you demonstrate your affection to others in a positive and caring way? Now, I know these are a lot of questions and I said them really fast, but I will provide them for you to look at, read, and write them down. So let's look at our final type, type 9. And their core fear is being in conflict, tension, or even this discord feeling, shut out and overlooked, losing connection with others, where their core desire is having inner stability and peace of mind. Core weakness is something called sloth, meaning remaining in this unrealistic and idealistic world to keep the peace, remain easygoing, and not be disturbed by their anger, where they're falling asleep to their passions and abilities, their desires and worth by merging with others. However, their core longing is to hear your presence matters. So let's look at the path starting with stress path. It's where a 9 moves towards an unhealthy 6. They find their mind constantly racing, worried and fixated on possible worst case scenarios. They become irritable, defensive, and frustrated. And they're even frantically taking care of responsibilities that have been put off for far too long. So, what does their blind spot look like? And this is how they are when in the comfort of family and friends. So, 9s, they move towards this unhealthy part of a 3. So, you would see them demonstrating their value and worth by bragging about their accomplishments. And they do this busy work to feel productive and even distract themselves from more important matters. And they desire to be noticed and affirmed. And as they move towards that unhealthy 3, they're easily hurt when others point out any flaw or failure. So, growth path, this is when you are putting into practice the changes, becoming more aware that things can be different and utilize the strengths of your connector type attributes. So, when a 9 moves towards a healthy side of 3, they take time to discover their desires and passions and invest in themselves through self development. They accomplish new goals. They're confidently showing up to life and they assert themselves and bless others with their full presence. They speak up more, sharing their knowledge and insights. And then finally, the converging path. This is the ultimate space to be in when you're really allowing yourself to be fully aware, no longer grappling with the struggles and finding this balance. Again, this is not all the time because nothing is perfect all the time. But again, this is about being aware, this heightened awareness, which allows you to move in life in a healthy way. So when a 9 moves towards the healthy side of 6, they become more hardworking, responsible, and even follow through. They boldly assert themselves and their ability to benefit others. And they demonstrate courage by stepping out of their comfort zone into unfamiliar areas and pushing through adversity or difficulties. So, how about some questions for consideration? As nines move from their connector type 6 and 3 from unhealthy to healthy, you can see this pattern of what happens when you're at that unhealthy spot and then you're traveling to the healthy. So when a nine moves towards a six, these are the questions. Describe a time when you became worried, anxious, testy, and defensive. What does it look like to surrender your worries and have courage to move forward into the actions you know is right for you? What would it look like to access the high side of six and push through difficulties in life with courage and perseverance? Can you describe a time when you wanted to give up because you felt worried and overwhelmed, but you persevered? What did that feel like? So then, when a nine moves towards a three, notice how the questions shift from what happens when you're in that unhealthy three to the healthy three. When around those you are secure with, mainly your family, do you brag about yourself and demonstrate your value more? Can you give some examples? What kind of busy work do you tend to do when you're trying to avoid something that you do not want to do? So I have to ask the follow up, what are you avoiding and why? What would it look like to access the high side or the healthy side of three? How can you acknowledge that you are important and what you offer others is valuable? How can you grow in understanding that your presence matters? How can you show up in life today? I hope that these questions help you to navigate towards reflection of your type nines connecting types, the three and six. And I wanted to also share some distinct, valuable strengths of the seven, eight, and nine and what they bring to any group or any relationship. So, type 7, they are optimistic, adventurous, enthusiastic, visionary, and remember that they are naturally highly spirited and will always look for that brighter side. They are quick thinking and very versatile, and they're excellent at seeing multiple future possibilities. So, what about an 8? They are powerful, protective leaders who are decisive and fiercely loyal. They're comfortable with taking charge in high stake situations. They're self reliant, action oriented, and they certainly are not afraid of conflict, often driving projects to completion. And then our nines. Nines are calm, patient mediators who bring stability. They have this adaptability and peaceful atmosphere. They are rarely ruffled by stress. They're easygoing and able to see all sides of a situation. They are easy to be around and they are steadfast, supportive, and gentle. I wonder, do you see these attributes or gifts in those you are connected with? The people that are sevens, eights, and nines? And again, if you don't know your type, on my Instagram page, you can click on the link that will take you to a free assessment and you can learn what your type is. And then if you want to understand a little bit more about what that is, reach out. Let's get a coaching session going and I will help you navigate those. It's funny. I started the process of learning and studying, which is something that I experience week after week. And the truth is that this week is no different. However, this series we've been traveling through the paths of each Enneagram, there was something that finally revealed itself to me. In fact, I realized that the way we relate to our connectors is a little deeper and different than we really understand. In fact, it might even help if we had more clarity. And I was reading the reflection questions of a nine, and it hit me. I was able to actually see the real. I could see these as they pertained to each type, but specifically nines. These questions help me see the things that we do and how we behave in unhealthy versus the healthy aspects, specifically how we relate to our connectors or how we are using or utilizing these connectors. I want to reiterate this that when we start with understanding that stress arrows are not inherently bad, they actually are opportunities. And arrows, they don't change our core motivations, they only change the behavior on the outside. It is in that moment where we start accessing and utilizing our connector types. You see, we can choose to use the healthy parts and be aware of the unhealthy to help in our awareness journey. So in growth, arrows, they show stagnation if you're becoming too comfortable there. So let me flesh this out a little bit more by using my Enneagram type, which is a 2. I am a type 2. So let's start with my core motivations. So my core fear is being rejected and being needy. So let's just pause for a moment. My fear makes it impossible to get my desires met, which is to be loved, appreciated, and wanted. But if I'm stuck in this core fear, the walls are up, and ultimately, I'm not creating space, allowing for people to give or provide me my desires. I don't allow them to show up because of this thing called expectation bias, where I'm believing that they will yet again let me down, which speaks to my weakness, this concept of pride. You see, my pride, it keeps me from letting people in and ultimately getting my needs met. The pride then looks like me fixing others so I don't have to focus on mine, but also believing that no one can help me. And then, of course, blaming everyone for not helping me. Sheesh. Okay. But this is my fear, my desire, and my weakness in conflict with each other. Are you with me so far? Now, again, this is an example of self awareness. Remembering that if the goal is to be the best version of ourselves, then we need to, or we should, could, whatever, in order to reach this higher state of awareness, right? So, how does my core longing fit in? Well, at my core, just like my desire, I long to be wanted and loved. So, if that is what I truly want in my core, the part that motivates me, I need to, from that basic place, use my connectors in health, which in theory helps me to not only see that I'm repelling and refusing to allow people the opportunity to fulfill my longing and desire, which is to be wanted and loved. So instead, it could serve me for the good to choose to press into what and how people want to show up for me. Aren't we all a work in progress? Okay, I just want to keep that phrase in the forefront. Awareness is key. So when I allow my fears to play center stage, I miss the opportunities to let people take care of me. So when I'm looking at these reflection questions, how does that play out? And so as a 2, I move towards the unhealthy side of 8. So what it would look like is that you would see me being irritable, feeling rejected, and unsupported, perhaps controlling behavior. So, for example, this is my headspace in unhealthy 8. If no one is going to help me, then I'll just do it myself. And I'm not just talking about moving furniture or cleaning the house, although that is an issue when I'm in my unhealthy 8. But I'm talking about feelings and even responsibilities. This backwards thinking of, well, since you're not helping me like I want you to, and remember, I've already told you before what that looks like, and I'm exhausted by that, by the way. I'm going to be mad at you. This, of course, can look like manipulation. And again, this is when I'm in that unhealthy 8 space. The things that while we can't really think about in real time, they really are good to reflect on because we can commit them to our memory and stop and pause and readjust. I know you were thinking the stop, drop, and roll, put out the fire move, which definitely applies here. And all these things, again, are a reflection of what it looks like when I'm utilizing my unhealthy eight. So for me or other twos, here's some other reflection questions. When under stress and become irritable, aggressive, or dominating, what was happening? Is there a specific example? Well, I'm going to answer that. I feel this when I'm trying to talk about deep feelings and I'm not getting the kind of feedback that I need. So I react, whether out loud or inside, in blaming and trying to control the situation. I know that when I don't perceive that this need is being met with, or what I believe to be a simple act, simply, yes, I hear you, or that makes sense, I will just shut the conversation down, whether physically by getting up, which I know I do, or by changing the subject. My go to phrase is, anyways, moving on, or I'm sorry, I totally hijacked the conversation. Maybe not so sarcastically, or maybe, but maybe the truth is, it's not that simple for someone to hear my feelings, process them in lightning speed, and saying what I perceive as a simple gesture or response that they should be automatically demonstrating to me this love and ultimately fulfilling my core desire and core longing. But I shouldn't stay there. It's not an option. As I learned in church, it's okay to not be okay, but don't stay there. And again, this is not about shame or blame. It's only about awareness, which is key, meaning it unlocks the possibility for change and growth. That growth path and that converging path that we've been talking about. So that is what it looks like when I am pressing too far into the unhealthy aspects of my type 8 connector. But when I'm using the healthy 8, I'm expressing myself with this balanced emotion and leaving this passive aggressiveness in a box or at the bottom of the sea, which is what they should have done with a tesseract. I'm focusing less on what others think, becoming more independent and self assured through validating myself, which really fits with my year of I can and I am. I'll tell you about that later if I haven't already. And as I move away from the whole give to get, oh my goodness, so many object lessons just in that one phrase or action. But what happens then is this pride that I carry, like some trophy, it turns into humility where everyone wins, especially me. So, my connector 4, when utilizing this unhealthy aspects, and side note, I literally talked about this with my husband this past week. That when I'm in that unhealthy 4 space, I am an oversharer. And not just about one thing, it's everything. Every thought, every feeling, every dark negative ones with the people in my circle, and my husband being the top of that list, of course. I'm more moody and self focused, which again, I'm borrowing this unhealthy aspect of a 4. But when I press into the healthy 4, I own my unhealthy behavior and I ask for forgiveness. I'm sure that the people who know me can actually see these things happening in real time. Or maybe it is more retrospective, but I am in turn in charge of my own needs and feelings and emotions, accept painful feelings, the whole deal anger, sadness, and loneliness. And as a result, when using the healthy 4 characteristics, is that I walk forward with this belief that I am wanted and loved apart from what I do for others. Wow, what peace it brings. I can actually see this transformation and how it can be real. It can work. I feel it right now as I share this with you. So, understanding the paths that take us from unhealthy to healthy is the key. And we can make that jump. I really love this. I hope that you've been able to capture what I've unpacked today by using my own experiences, my core motivations, and my connector types, 8 and 4, the unhealthy to healthy. And I encourage you to do the same. Start by, of course, know your Enneagram type. And if you don't, please, please reach out. I would love to help you. First, understanding and accepting those parts of your core motivations. Don't be afraid of them. Try to view them from the outside. Think about situations and how others might experience you. And this, again, is not about shame, guilt, or otherwise. This is just being aware. Then remember the paths and the directions, the arrows, stress path, blind spot, growth path, and converging path. And when you look at how your connecting types either enhance your core or even derail, they can delete and take away. That when we remember these things in reference to that unhealthy versus the healthy attributes of those connectors, we can have this clear understanding of where we are in any given moment when operating in and through our core motivations and our connector types. I would love to hear what you discovered. So, before we say goodbye for now, I really wanted to look at a few more affirmations so we can add these to our toolbox. And if you're not familiar with this toolbox, well, that's a simple fix. We created one last season. So, it can either be literal if you need an object, or figuratively if you're able to create that space in your head. When I first created this toolbox, I needed both. I'm kind of a kinesthetic learner and maybe a little bit of an overachiever. So the toolbox is a space where you keep the tools of life, the things that help us continue on this journey of betterment through self love, self care, and the rhythms that we establish in our life. So before I reveal the affirmations, I wanted to share a little something that, of course, after turning another year older, that I started doing. And please don't just say it's a number, because the truth is it's not. It means something different for everyone. Although I do think we should celebrate the wow, you made it. All the things that you did that were downright dumb or accidents that could have not been a good outcome, you made it. Good job. No, great job for persevering and making it to the age that you're at. For, so for some of you, you know what I'm talking about, because I'm thinking about my own life. So many things I experienced that if someone was watching as if to be watching a movie, they would definitely say, wow, big wow, surprised that you made it through that. And if you know, you know. Okay, so after turning 55 this birthday, I realize I am the only one stopping me from moving forward. That I'm limiting myself, my beliefs, the way I see myself, and how I have just accepted what other people, well, the negative things that people have said about me, that those things, they've kept me from doing things that I've dreamt of. And in some cases, I didn't even allow myself to dream about. So that brings me to this path that I'm on, this year of I can and I am. So, the basics of the why. So here is how it plays out for me. I replace the negative thoughts with, hey, remember, this is the year of I can and I am. So, for example, I replace the negative thoughts that I'm currently having or in a specific moment with, whoa, 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 hey, remember, this is the year of I can and I am. Example, I can't do hard things, but then I remember I've done hard things before. So, to put that into practice, I can do hard things because I am brave. I can say yes to something even though I'm scared, because I think it's okay to do something scared. So every time the peanut gallery, that inner critic inside your mind tries to speak negativity over me, I replace it with a lovingly, come on, Michelle, you can do this, or we're not going there, because I get to say, there is no more room for that negativity being held over my head, stopping me from becoming. Becoming what? That is just it. Whatever that means for you personally, becoming something else, becoming what you always dreamed you could become. So remember, when you want to make that shift, try the I can and I am. And we're all about practicing the right something for good. Okay, affirmation. Take a listen to this. And again, I will post the reflection questions for all 9 types and the affirmations in the show notes. I did post on Instagram the affirmations, so I will make every effort to do the same this week. I'm improving my commitment. I appreciate the accountability. Thank you. Keep this in mind as you're utilizing these affirmations. First, say affirmations aloud. Use the present tense and try not to highlight the negative part and choose meaningful affirmations. Now, I chose these ones because they seem to fit right along with our topic. The last few weeks have been challenging, and the affirmations are not exceptions. But I believe we can set the day up for success, however you measure success. So let's get after it. I choose happiness every day. I am worthy of the time and energy it takes to care for myself. I appreciate the opportunities I've been given. I can let go of things I can't change. And the last one, I forgive myself for mistakes I've made and refuse to hold them against myself. Okay, so those are our new affirmations. I hope that you can find one or maybe all of them that work for you. Don't hesitate to put them in places that you visit often. I mentioned a few weeks ago about things happening in the month of April, and since this is our last Monday in April, I think I forgot to mention a few. So both Earth Day and Jelly Bean Day was on the 22nd. So go back as if you're celebrating those days, plant a tree, and do it while eating jelly beans. And try to grab a pretzel on the 29th of April in honor of Pretzel Day and Honesty Day, which is on the 30th. Now, I say that one with caution, so be kind about going around being honest. Try saying nice things about everyone you encounter. My daughter, when she's out and about, she always says to people she sees nice things to them. She says things like, "Oh, your eyes are so pretty," or "I like your smile." And it's authentic and true. It's not just this random thing to say. She really, really means it. I love that about her. Always pointing out the beauty in a person that maybe they can't see for themselves. What a gift not only she is, but that she's giving to other people. And then finally, for all those that had a birthday in April, I'm wishing you the happiest of birthdays yet. And now, our favorite of the legal stuff. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. This podcast is not a substitute for medical care. The materials, movies, videos, or books referred to in this podcast are recommendations only. The views expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the podcast host. That's me or sponsors. Join me each week as we dive into all things Enneagram, self-care ideas, self-love patterns and rhythms, share ideas from other reputable authors, doctors, and my favorite podcasters. A big thank you to you for being here with me today on Core Motivations Podcast. We're counting on you to help spread the word of our corner over here at Core Motivations. So hit the follow button, share this episode with someone, and please leave a review. I have to admit, I'm loving the 5 stars. It is helping us reach so many more people. Where to find me? You can find me, Michelle, on Instagram at core_motivations_coach. or through email, michelle@coremotivationscoach.com. Thanks for hanging in with us for a little longer episode. So let me leave you with this. Until next time. And as always, I'm rooting for you.